Hello and welcome to the bonus episode of the Tech on Toast podcast, brought to you by our friends at Dojo. This week we meet Brendan Kelly, Head of Projects at JKS Restaurants. Brendan tells us all about his role at JKS and the challenges the industry faces. Enjoy the show. Welcome to this week's Tech on Toast podcast. I'm delighted today to be joined by Brendan Kelly, Head of Projects at JKS Restaurants. Brendan, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, nice to see you. You haven't been in this room before, right?
No, I was saying that I stare at it from the outside of Brewdog sometimes.
Longing.
And think, I wish I could be in there.
One day. Well, that's when you know you've made it, right? When you get the Tech on Toast podcast,
Exactly.
career is complete. And I see you're fashioning a bit of a... We may as well get out of the way. Who are you drinking there?
Today we're drinking Grind ISO coffee latte.
Very nice.
Delicious.
It's good. And before we get into it, let's learn a bit about you, because obviously I don't think you were born into JKS. Did you have a career before this?
I was in hotels mostly, so in bars, and from there decided that I couldn't really stand the bureaucracy of working in big groups. I won't name them, but essentially just you'd have an idea and it would take 6 months to come back from head office before you could do it. So I was like, let me try restaurants. And I joined
shorter
JKS.
route.
Yeah, I joined JKS, and it's like the complete opposite in terms of new ideas welcome. Let's try something new. Let's get going. Started as a restaurant manager, opened Shoe with them, ended up being the acting general manager there. Then I moved away into consultancy for a bit and came back during COVID to help with the retailer. Evolved into kind of an ops manager role, and then shifted into head of projects, which is kind of a...
I was just going to say, be careful what you wish for.
it involves a few different elements, let's say.
Yes,
So,
tell us about Head of Projects.
So I work alongside the commercial director on new openings. So I help him with licensing, with the layouts, coordinating the ops teams during the 12 to 6 months out. And then from 6 months to opening, I also assist with project managing the construction project manager. That's kind of the new opening section of my job. The internal projects is very much tech initiatives, just trying to put in standards and retrospectives and some sort of framework for a program of projects throughout the estate. JKS is quite a lot of different brands.
Yeah, talk us through, because if anyone who's listening who doesn't know who JKS is or are, what brands have you got under that umbrella?
Well, it's a multi-award-winning group. So we've got Gymkhana, which is 2 Michelin stars, Kitchen Table as well. We've got a few other Michelin stars with Lyle's, Trishna, and some of our chef-led restaurants. We've also got more fine casual restaurants like Hoppers and Bao and the Speedboats of the world, who are all centered in London. And then we also have our Indian restaurants, which I've already mentioned, which are kind of the core group that we started out with, which is Gymkhana, Trishna, and Brigadiers.
And you're doing a new opening, but you won't tell me where it is. I thought I'd ask you live.
Yeah,
No
comment.
It's a big secret. It's a big secret. But when will this restaurant open?
We're getting close.
It's ridiculous. Okay, moving on. Okay, and when you move into the head of project role, and your background is ops, right? So you've firmly got your feet in. You understand operations.
I don't even know, 10, 15 years ops, just from a waiter to ops manager.
And how did that prepare you, I suppose, for going into this? Because project management can be frustrating, right? Because you're relying on other people. I really struggle with it. You're relying on other people to kind of complete tasks, or at least bring you information to help you do your job.
I think from the guest side, it prepares you because you need to deal with guests.
Yeah.
And you need to always be on your feet and thinking, how am I going to improve their service, or how am I going to deal with an issue that's come up? So it kind of makes you quick on your feet in terms of understanding how people work, how to influence a little bit, how to get value from people as well. And then the other bit is organization. If you're going to be a GM in any restaurant, you need to be super organized. And you take a general manager, and they could probably be a project manager. They wouldn't have the set skills in terms of knowledge to do it super well, but you train them up for 6 months and they'd be able to do it. They just need that knowledge base because they already do it, but they probably have their own ad hoc systems that they've come up with.
And this is why I get really frustrated when people kind of not say bad things about the industry, but talk about the type of people in the industry. Because you're right. I've worked with multiple general managers of my career who easily easily smart cookies who could go and run multiple projects at the same time, but they never really get the opportunity because they kind of get, I think they feel like they get stuck in this kind of cycle of just being a GM, moving from brand to brand. But actually the skill set they're developing is insane, isn't it, for someone like what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I think being in restaurants, being in hospitality prepares you for most jobs that are complementary or adjacent to hospitality, because there's just so many human elements that you cover, and so many soft skills that you learn.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And part of your role, unfortunately for you, is dealing with people like me. And
that's the best part of my job.
Yes, I love you. And technology, obviously, and we go back probably to the start of your career, was probably an EPOS and a reservation system, right? That's probably all we had, I suppose. That's all I kind of, and maybe guest experience, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mystery diners, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm thinking it was exciting to have Google Sheets. You know what I mean? Like having a live document was cool.
It's funny. I've just come from a tech review. I won't mention who it was, and I was with a brand and I mentioned Notion to them because we use Notion at Tech on Toast to manage all our projects. Oh, see, look, good company. and they were literally, they had no clue. You forget sometimes that actually just being in ops, you're so focused on just getting open and running the shift and doing the bits that require you to do in your job that you miss out on some of this opportunity of some of the more advanced tech stuff. Do you spend a bit of time, I suppose, focusing on that, looking at what the best opportunity is for JKS as a group or individually? How does that work for you when you've got so many brands?
We get a lot of people just approaching us all the time.
I bet.
So in terms of finding the next new thing, it's not that hard.
Just need to open my
Chris
inbox.
messages me all the time. So
still waiting.
No, so in that regard, we do a lot of demos.
Yeah.
It's just about finding the value for the time needed, because there's a lot of systems, there's a lot of things, but we already have a lot of systems. So sometimes it's really just about seeing what you've already got and doing it better, because it's surprising, and I'm sure you've told me this as well, the amount of times you look at a system and realize that you're not using it properly, or you could be using it a lot better rather than going to a different one.
Yeah. They'll probably all hate me for that, but yeah, it's true. No, but it's true, isn't it? Because it's almost like you get your new phone, right, or your new computer, and you think, oh, this is amazing, and you use it, but you kind of use. I looked on my phone the other day. I've got 4 apps that I use 60% of the time on my phone, and I've got 70 apps.
The other one's is like download once.
And I think it's just like that's like a restaurant tech stack. Yeah. I mean, that makes lots of people sad probably hearing that, but it might be true, right? That you're actually you buy all the shiny stuff, but is it actually being? Let's ask you. Do you feel like you're getting the full use out of your whole kit at the moment, or have you still got some discovery to do?
I think there's still a bit of discovery to be done. There's quite a few things that we've worked on recently to make them better. I think that there's an element of change management to anything as well, because as soon as you change a system, people don't want to adopt it. There's a lot of pushback. But the longer you use it for, the higher the adoption becomes. The new people come in who only know that system, and all of a sudden it just becomes the business as usual. And then you start to discover, oh, I could also do this. Someone new comes in and says, oh, I've used this system before, I can do this. And it's all kind of organic at the moment. We've definitely, since we spoke about a year or two ago, have come leaps and bounds, but there's still a lot to be done. Yeah,
I think adoption's key, right? Especially in an organisation your size and growing, that you've got to bring the people with you. And obviously you can't please everyone. I'm sure there's always going to be the one person who's like, I hate this stock system. I'm never going to love it. And you're probably never going to win that battle, right? That's just kind of pick your battles. But how do you go about, I suppose, bringing them along with you when you're putting in new tech, or trying to embed tech you've had a while, but you just need to sweat it more and get more out of it?
I think it's. There's a few elements: communication, and also just getting people involved.
Yeah.
And I think about myself, right, as a GM, or myself in normal life. If someone involves me in the process of something, I'm more likely to enjoy it or understand it. It's when someone dictates, this is what we're doing from now on, even I just, my back goes up, it's like, why? We were perfectly fine before. You need to explain with communication why we're doing something, because it's better for people. There's no point in moving from a system to another system that does exactly the same thing. What you want to do is you want to bring improvements and value and time savings. And a lot of the time, what you see is that that's just not been communicated properly. all you need to do then is go back and do a bit of a roadshow and go to sites and speak to everybody and say, well, you know, this is why we're doing it, because you're going to get back 10 hours every week to do something else. And then it clicks. And you just need to put yourself in people's shoes and think, why would I want to use this system?
Yeah, now that ROI piece that you mentioned there, like it's funny, isn't it? Because every tech website will have a call to action at the front saying, do this and you'll get this. And I think that proving that, are you starting to see some of those reductions? Or you don't have to mention any particular tech, but are you starting to see where you've implemented tech, you've got some wins coming out of it, whether it's just a sales win or you're saving some time?
Definitely. I know marketing have been doing a lot in terms of reservations and everything like that, so there's been some great achievements on that front with data as well. From a labor management system, we've moved everybody to the same system now, and just having that is great.
Yeah, that alone must be just easier from a central point of view to manage.
Yeah, and then we're just now working through some systems that aggregate some of the different systems together to help spread the load of, you know, one place to look at stuff rather than multiple.
How does it work then? Do you have like the structure of the company? Do you have like general managers then like almost like an operations manager above them, or how does that work?
Generally, every brand has an ops manager.
Right. Okay.
It just depends on the size as well. So, you take Bao will have an ops manager, Hoppers as well. For the Indian sites, they have one ops manager above them. So it's all kind of done by cluster. So we've got the Indian cluster, we've got kind of fine casual, which is the Hoppers, the Chayo, the Speedboat and Plaza. And then the chef-led itself is a bit more on the other side.
Are they the ones that don't want your new tech?
No, they're great. The chef-led are great. They do some amazing stuff. So obviously that brings up challenges in terms of communication.
Yeah.
We have... and our senior management team has done a big job in making sure that there's clear communication lines across everywhere, that we can quickly talk to people and people can cascade it down.
It's huge, isn't it? It makes such a difference, I think, when you're able to, you know, I've worked in 100 site chains and been able to get the word out across, even just across your patch. You might only have 10 sites right in your patch. Still, you get Chinese whispers where you'll deliver it to one general manager and the next general manager will hear something totally different. You're like, how? You're already like 20 miles away. How did that happen? Obviously, remember I worked in the region, so there's always a bit of mileage between us. But I always used to be shocked at how valuable getting that absolutely spot on would do in delivering a new menu, or, you know, anything from a maintenance change, whatever it might be. That kind of, and that's when phones and video, it sounds so old, but when you start getting the ability to film and you know, direct message and all that kind of stuff, it made such a huge difference. Can you imagine how even it was before there was that kind of comms, when it was just email and phone? It would have been just horrific.
I can't imagine. I don't know how people worked before.
Well, I'll tell you, actually, Ask Restaurant, I was one of the first GMs at Ask Restaurants, and when Adam and Sam, we used to do paper newsletters posted to the sites. So by the time you got the posted newsletter, 25 other things will have changed. But, you know, that was how we had a folder. We had to keep all these communications, and we had spoke on a panel, I think, what was it, 4 months ago?
Yeah,
on a roof somewhere.
Beginning of the year.
In Wagtail. Yeah, I think it was January or February. But and we talked about change management a little bit, and you came up with a really interesting opinion about that. You actually think that restaurant chains or hospitality brands should adopt a position of change management, or at least look at that function, say, you know, is there someone responsible for doing that in a business? And I call it being change ready. Do you think that's something that the more you're getting involved into what you do you think that's more and more relevant as we move forward as an industry?
I think so. I mean, tech's not going to stop.
No.
And we're going to see a lot of different systems that are able to simplify stuff, which is great. But you still need to lead people on a journey towards where you want to be. And I think there needs to be a more holistic strategy for everybody and I think that's where Tech on Toast comes along, in terms of looking at your tech stack and saying, well, what do I actually want 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And then creating a plan of bringing your entire teams together to do that. And that's not just project management, that's change management as well, because you can project manage anything.
They're different, aren't they? I think everyone gets them.
They're like twins, you know? They look the same, but actually they're completely different personalities.
What a great analogy. I'm stealing that one. No, but it's so true, isn't it? Because I think people think, oh, we're running a project, so obviously it will work.
Yeah.
because we've done it
So you need
systematically.
both. You can't have one, because if you just have change management, then you're not going anywhere. If you only have project management, you're going somewhere, but people aren't going to follow you.
Yeah, you're force feeding them. Yeah.
Yeah. So 100%. And I'm not saying it needs to be in every place there's a specific change manager or someone, but at least a leader who understands the theory of it and is able to assist whoever's project managing and essentially push it along.
And we already said, right, that a general manager has that ability to do that, right? And I remember we used to call them champions in college. We used to have a champion of this and a champion of that, and they would look after. So if we were rolling out a new guest experience platform, the general manager in Dorchester potentially would be that person who would kind of oversee it. It's a bit of a development project for them to manage on a wider sphere, but they're capable. But it's about the organisation, and that change ready bit and the adoption piece you mentioned at the start, I think is 100% crucial. And doing the tech audits you just mentioned with the brands is really interesting, because they're full of light bulb moments, full of them. And it's often someone, because I have no clue how the internal operations of JKS run, or of anyone else I speak to. But once you get into it, you see things differently, because I don't work there. And I think sometimes brands require that, right? I think it's important to have that kind of insight sometimes from someone who doesn't work every day in it. And for people like you who can sit outside of the daily ops, it must be quite crucial for the guys that run it.
Yeah, I think every general manager needs to be involved. Every ops manager needs to be involved in every project for it to be successful. Without that, you just don't get anywhere. You don't get the buy-in. And I've done, kind of analysis across our business in terms of, I think it's RACI matrix, so responsible, accountable, consulted, informed for one project. And you end up having so many people you need to touch base with, which is even indirect, like marketing department or beverage department or something of the sort. And I really recommend anybody who's looking to do a project just sit down for half an hour or an hour and just think about all the stakeholders involved and understand, do they need to be informed, do they need to be consulted? And that just gives you this nice little framework of where to start from a communication perspective and also from a responsibility perspective. Because what happens a lot of time as well is the larger the business is, the more people need to feed in. And sometimes you miss people out. And if you do that, then it's just going to give you an extra hurdle.
Yeah, it's a bump in the road, right? You didn't need.
Like, spend the extra time planning that out and understanding where everybody lies in terms of the project and who needs to be consulted. Because that just makes everything else so much easier at the end. And the GMs are central to that. They're the engine to the entire restaurant business at the end of the day. Like, everything we do needs to be for them to get better.
Yeah, and they have to totally get it right.
Yeah.
We rolled out ProNet many years ago when it was brand new. I know it was just coming out on the market, and we absolutely stuffed it up. We totally got it right. Just because I don't think any of us understood how to use it properly, and then it was quite complex. It was maintenance, so it wasn't sexy. It wasn't something we were like, oh, great, we're going to fix. But what you don't realise, that actually maintenance cost the company was probably the third biggest cost in the business after labour and food cost. So we were like, wow, okay, that is a big deal. So it's about kind of telling that story first, saying, look, guys, actually, yes, this isn't the most sexiest thing on earth, but actually we could save a ton of cash here and invest that back into people. And then you're like, oh, okay, now I want to play. so it's just that kind of getting that story across, isn't it? And if you weren't there then, I suppose if we took you out of, God forbid, JKS, and they bought a piece of tech, would it end up on a GM shoulders, do you think, or an ops manager's shoulders? How would they cope, or how would they manage that process? Not just JKS, I suppose, but generally.
There's different ways of doing it, right? Like you said, I know of some businesses that do exactly what you said, where a GM will have a responsibility across different sites.
Yeah.
So one GM is very good at, for example, labor management, so they'll be in charge of the labor management system. Another one might be very good at maintenance, and they spread the load that way. So it could be where they become the kind of change manager or central person who's able to
change champion.
Yeah, that's I like that. I'm going to steal that one. So I mean, I've heard of that happening a lot, and I mean that could be replicated. I mean, there's multiple ways to run a tech rollout. I don't think it's central to one person all the time. What needs to happen is it just needs to be one person responsible and who understands all the things that need to happen. So it could be someone who's never done it before. They just need the support from above to be like, here's a structure you can use, talk every week, tell me your challenges, we'll work through them. And that's what I do a lot of the time as well with some projects where I'm not the project lead. It might be someone on the people team, or it might be someone on the marketing team. But I'm available to them if they need me on a weekly, fortnightly, monthly basis to sit down and chat and just, what are your challenges at the moment? Can I help you with them? Can we talk through them? And just have that extra level of support. And that could be in any business. It could be anybody, really. It could be the CEO, it could be the COO, it could be another GM who's experienced in it.
And I think when I first met you, we talked around tech and we talked about tech stack. You are super organized. Out of all the tech reviews I've done, I think I mean, I won't talk about the detail of it, but your Airtable that we discussed is probably the most efficient I've seen. no, it really is. And it
wasn't even a good job, I thought.
Well, no, but it was just, for me. It was one of the early ones we were looking at, and it was eye-opening in how much you can have, right, in a restaurant tech stack, how much you can end up with. And I'm not just talking about labor, food cost, we're talking about Monday, or whatever, but your planning document might be Notion or whatever it might be, or even down to who delivers your stationery supplies or whatever in the office. It becomes and the cost stacks up, right?
Yeah. And I start to get into percentages of total revenue when you actually add everything up, and it's like, wow, should probably have somebody looking at this then. Well, we use Notion for our projects, so in terms of structure, it's been great to have. Did
you always use Notion then, or is it something?
No, we brought that in last year, towards the end of last year.
I think it's amazing. We brought it in about 7 months ago. It changed my life.
Yeah, and the thing is, I would recommend a project management software, even if it's just Notion, which can be free. Obviously, this paid version is much better. And even if you're a small business, it's even better because as you scale, you've got the system in place to do that better. And it's a central hub for knowledge. We use it as a wiki, but we also use it to project manage. And it just means that you have that extra adoption because people are going there to find out information. They're also using it.
So all your teams access Notion as well?
All management teams.
Management team, yeah.
So it's not for...
it's not for employees on the floor?
No.
Okay. No, I think we put it in, Sarah put it into Tech on Toast, and within, and I'm not even exaggerating, 48 hours, because we were running quite a few projects at that point, it literally sorted us out, as it just gave you structure. And I think in a very busy world that you guys live in, that actually having, and I know there's lots of different ones, everyone seems to end up on Microsoft and Ops. I don't know why. In hospitality brands, everyone seems to end up with Teams and that's
Teams,
so I find it. I don't know. I'm a Google guy, but Notion I think is probably where everyone needs to get to, or something like, I don't know what Monday's like, or Asana.
No, I haven't used them either. I mean, I think Notion is such a flexible system compared to some, because a lot of them are just project management software, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what Monday.com is. It's just project management. But Notion can be, it's almost like a web page.
I love it. Yeah, I publish them to my clients.
And do whatever you like. You can add guests, like you said, if you've got external clients or external consultants. The flexibility that it offers you to create a project or create a wiki or create a database of whatever you want, guest feedback, who knows. It just means that for a restaurant it's perfect, because a restaurant is so flexible and does so much that it's hard to pinpoint one system for it to do all these things.
And we used to have remember intranets, and intranets. I used to build a prime minister. I was in charge of the intranet. It was horrific. That must have been the early days of Tech on Toast. But it was interesting, and I think you can publish Notion pages to their web pages, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to a client the other day who couldn't open. I can't join Notion. He's a little bit older, and I said to him, I'll publish it. Don't worry. So then he had a web page. He's like, it's my own website. Well, it's not a website, but it's yes, it's a web page. So
it's great,
but it's just an easy. It just makes it accessible, right, for loads of people. And I suppose in terms of rolling out tech, what's been your? Have you had a most successful? You have to name the brand, but have you had one that's been most successful? And I'd be interested to know what part the tech supplier played in that, making it successful.
I think with every system we've brought in that I've been involved, it's just been lots of learning. It's true though. I mean, I think of the first ones I've did, and I'm like, ooh, I could have done that a lot better. And then everyone has just gotten better and better, and it's really just about making sure you put a retrospective in and you learn from it.
Yeah.
In terms of what the tech companies have done, the more flexible they are with trainings, with road shows, with just being available to the site teams, the more successful it is.
100%.
And sometimes that can mean quite a lot of trainings and perhaps some later on catch-ups as well. even if it's just a half an hour on Teams where, anybody can jump in to troubleshoot. Just those little extra touch points for the site teams at convenient times for services make all the difference.
Yeah, I suppose it's like hand holding, isn't it, for like the period that you've bought the new product and then you're getting to that place. How long does that normally? I'm sure it's how long is a piece of string, but how long? What does that look like from the minute you've rolled out and then to letting go of the provider in not forever, but in terms of that close knit relationship? Or are you on their case constantly?
I normally have a monthly or fortnightly call with a lot of our systems.
That's great.
And sometimes there's nothing to talk about. Sometimes there's lots to talk about.
Yeah.
It's very much just about keeping an eye on what the needs.
That's set up by you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the needs of the teams and what's the development of the system. So just feeding that as a constant so they understand these are the pain points we're having.
That's great.
Which some are more receptive than others, but generally everybody is.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they're all busy people. They're probably like thinking, "Oh, here he is again, Brendan. Another bloody Brendan call." But I actually think good for you, and I know everyone will go, "Oh, but you can't scale that. How can you scale 100 Brendans calling every week?" Well, depends how much you value Brendan, doesn't it? And I think I truly believe that communication piece, and it doesn't have to be a structured meeting, does it? It could be you have a great relationship with your key account manager and they're touching base with you, because really that's their job, right? To make sure that you're okay. And I think being on the front foot with that and owning that conversation, like anything in terms of change or project management, is absolutely crucial. So I love the fact that you have them all. Steve from Maragami told me a story. When they opened Maragami in London, they had something called One Plate of Truth, and he brought all the tech providers into a room and he made them all kind of sign up to the fact that this is what he wanted to get to. He didn't know how to get there, but he had his PARs, his online ordering, everyone in delivery, all in the one room, and said, "You guys need to work it out. Find out the way to make it happen. I'll be outside. Give me a shout when you're done."
Lock the door.
Yeah, basically. And I think he said the same. There was some resistance at the start of it, and some people, obviously there's a little bit like, "Oh, don't we want to give away the family jewels here?" But in the end, they got there, and that led to a really successful rollout for them, and in terms of their tech stack and everything operating well. So I think that, not pressure, but that constant nudging is a great thing to do.
Yeah, and I think what's come from it as well is people are a lot more open to talking to other systems because of it, and understanding that there's a value to it, because then they can go to other clients and say, "Well, look, we integrate with them," or "Look, we do this," because a lot of the stuff we have pain points with, I'm sure everybody else does, right?
I can tell you if they do.
Yeah. So it's, if anything, it's amazing feedback to be able to get, I think, for any system to be like, "Oh, every 2 weeks or every month I'm getting something from my clients saying what's wrong."
Yeah.
And also what's right, what's going well.
That's what I mean. I wasn't being, no, it's not all negative. It's about the fact that actually you're saying, "Look, this is going great. Can you do this? Is this possible in the future? Could we do this?" And I think, the roadmap is a well-used word in the tech world, but it's interesting to be able to plan that stuff ahead, especially for the operator to make decisions based on the current stack they have, to say, "Look, we can't do that with this current tech stack. That just won't be possible." But you don't know unless you ask, right?
Yeah, that's my motto. You don't
Brendan's
get
weekly
until
call.
you ask.
And
I'll just make a podcast of that. Everyone can join in on these calls.
Yeah, you can have one Brendan of truth, and have them all on every week. And I suppose, what's been the biggest learning curve for you as we finish off? Like, I suppose, moving into a role from ops into project management and into a brand that is loved by many, right? You really have. It's JKS has been a great story, hasn't it, for the last couple of years? And I think. What's really nice about that brand is everyone you interact with is pretty cool, and and you may smile, but when you meet a lot of people, and sometimes they all say, "Don't meet your heroes," don't they? Like, because you're disappointed. But actually, everyone we've met in my team, anyway, from JKS, has been pretty cool. How do you how are you going to kind of keep that going, I suppose, as you venture into new growth?
I think what we ask ourselves all the time is, will this make us better? And I think that's a central question for anything, whether that's a new site, whether that's a new system, whether that's a new initiative. I think that's central. You can take on as much as you like, but really, is it going to make you better?
Yeah.
As a person, even my development in terms of how I've gotten here, it's looking at the projects that are coming in and is this going to make me better? Is it going to make the business better? And everybody should be asking that question.
Yeah, it's kind of a relentless obsession with being successful, right?
Yeah.
After like trying to refine, constant refining. There's the 7 Habits man, Franklin Covey, but he talks about sharpening the saw as one of his 7 habits, and that's really interesting. It's basically what you're talking about there, where you're just constantly going, can I just get a little bit sharper?
Yeah.
Can I get
that
a little bit
1%,
better?
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Atomic Habits.
Yes.
Like 1% better every day.
Yeah, and if it's I think I truly believe that's achievable in most people, but there has to be a want to do it.
Yeah.
And also, as you quite brightly put at the start, you need everybody else also. They don't all have to want it as much as you, but they have to at least be on that path.
Journey.
Yeah. So look, it's really cool. I know I've pulled you here today. Where did you come from? Where were you today? It's going to give it away. No. Nearly.
I was at the head office today.
He's such a liar. And if people want to get hold of, like, genuinely, I think the way you manage projects and the way the slight insight I've had inside your business, if any other operators would like to kind of reach out and just have a chat to you about the way you've been handling some of your rollouts, the way you've dealt with some of the people you've had in the business, can they reach out? Is that okay?
Definitely. Message me on LinkedIn. I've actually been really bad at LinkedIn for the last 2-3 months. So
I'm bad at LinkedIn.
15 messages to go to.
It's okay. It's my life. I'll do it for you if you want. Well, when we release the podcast, you'll ever,
Well, exactly.
Yeah, you can shout all about it. I'm back. And what does the future hold then for the next? I know you're not going to tell me, but what does the future hold for the next 6 months? Anything interesting going on?
Being the best we can be.
So bad. Okay. I'm not even going to bother with the new opening now. I've given up. I've tried 3 times in different ways. He's not giving in. Look, really interesting to speak to you, and thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
No, really appreciate it, and it's lovely to see you again.
In this room.
And I think we've got services back. We were just talking about it. We hosted service here in February this year. We're doing it again in February next year, and we're going to put the JKS guys on the rostrum, obviously. So we'll be in touch soon to get you booked in.
Definitely.
He looks excited. Not.
I'm super excited. It was great when I came. I met a lot of people, and I was like, wow.
Oh, it was great. It was really good fun. I was just saying to you off air that there was we did like a little podcast reel, because every time someone spoke, they popped in the studio afterwards. And Sue from JKS came in with I think there was 3 of them, and it was chaos. She was part of that chaos. But great fun. And long may it continue. So thank you very much. That was Brendan Kelly, everybody. Say thank you, Brendan, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today. I really hope you enjoyed our first of our series collaboration with Dojo. As a payments platform designed for the experience economy, Dojo helps businesses increase efficiency and improve customer experience. If you're curious about growing your business with a robust, reliable and resilient payments platform, head to the dojo.tech website now. Tune into the rest of our series for even more insights from our Dojo experts and industry guests, all designed to empower you in taking your business to the next level. See you soon.